aitah for refusing to attend family gatherings until my in-laws stopped pushing me to have a baby. It happened during what was supposed to be a simple Sunday brunch, the kind with polite laughter, mismatched teacups, and the faint smell of baked cinnamon rolls that my mother-in-law insisted on making just like when Eric was a little boy. Only this time, I wasn't hungry. Maybe it was because I already knew what was coming, because every family brunch in that house ended the same way, with all eyes turning toward me, waiting for the answer I never wanted to give. And right on cue, halfway through her second mimosa, my mother-in-law tilted her head, smiled sweetly, and said, "So, when are you going to give us a grandchild?" It wasn't the question itself. It was the tone, like she was asking about a dinner reservation we hadn't gotten around to booking. I smiled politely. "We're not in a rush." Her lips tightened. "Not in a rush. You've been married for years, darling. Don't you think it's time?" Across the table, my husband, Eric, gave me that nervous, pleading look, the one that silently said, "Please, just let it go this time." But I couldn't, not anymore, because this wasn't just the first time. This was the 20th. The first time, I laughed it off. The 5th time, I tried explaining, "We're focusing on our careers right now." The 10th time, I lie. "We're thinking about it soon." The 15th, I got quiet. And now, here we were, brunch number 20. And I felt something inside me snap like a wire pulled too tight. I put my fork down and said, "We're not planning on having kids. Not now. Maybe not ever." Silence. It was as if I'd announced I'd burned down a church. My mother-in-law blinked rapidly. "Not ever?" Eric shifted uncomfortably beside me. His hand brushed mine under the table, a silent warning. His father, who rarely said much, cleared his throat. "That's disappointing," he muttered. "We thought you'd understand the importance of family." My mother-in-law leaned forward, lowering her voice like she was about to share a sacred secret. "Sweetheart, I know you're afraid. Every woman is at first. But once you hold your baby—" "I'm not afraid," I interrupted, sharper than I intended. "I just don't want that lie." Her face fell. "You don't want children?" "No," I said, "and that's not a crime. It should have ended there. But of course, it didn't." By dessert, she was crying quietly into her napkin, whispering about how she just wanted to be a grandmother before it's too late. My father-in-law muttered something about selfish modern women. And Eric, my husband, said nothing. Not a word. Not when his mother accused me of depriving the family of joy. Not when his father asked if there was something wrong with me medically. Not when I finally stood up, heart pounding, and said, "If this is what family means to you, guilt and pressure, then maybe I don't need to be here at all." That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've been painted as the villain. Eric's sister texted me a paragraph-long message about how mom's been crying for days. "And you didn't need to embarrass her like that." His aunt sent me a photo of their newest grandchild with a caption that read, "See what you're missing." Even Eric isn't on my side. He says I overreacted and that they were just being excited. But it's not excitement when someone refuses to take no for an answer. It's control dressed up as love. Here's the thing they don't know. We tried once. 2 years ago, I found out I was pregnant, 6 weeks in. I told Eric, crying and smiling at the same time, and for 3 days we were both terrified and ecstatic. And then I miscarried. I never told anyone else. Not my parents, not his family. I didn't even tell my best friend. Because the way Eric's mom talks about pregnancy, like it's some divine calling, a woman's sole purpose, made me feel like my body had failed an exam I was never ready to take. When the bleeding stopped, I told myself I'd never go through that again. Not the pain, not the grief, not the suffocating expectations. Now, every time his family brings up the baby topic, it feels like someone's twisting a knife in a wound I tried to let heal. So, last night, I told Eric I was done. "I'm not going to another family event," I said quietly. "Not until they stop pushing this. Not until you start defending me." He looked at me like I'd just betrayed him. "You can't be serious." "I am." He ran a hand through his hair. "You're making it sound like they're monsters. They just want grandkids, babe. It's normal." I stared at him. What's not normal is being pressured about my body at every meal. What's not normal is your mom crying every time I say I have a choice. He didn't respond. He just muttered, "You're overthinking it," and walked away. This morning, I woke up to a group chat notification. It was his family's Sunday dinner group, a chat I never asked to be added to but couldn't escape. His mom had sent a message. Can't wait to see everyone tonight. Family is what life's all about. Eric replied with a thumbs up emoji. One typed and deleted my response at least 10 times before finally sending. I won't be coming anymore until the conversations about having kids stop. This isn't up for debate. The chat went silent. Then his sister sent a single message. Wow, dramatic much? Eric didn't reply. He didn't even look at me when he left for work. So here I am, sitting in our quiet apartment, wondering if I really am the bad guy. Maybe I should have just smiled through it like always. Maybe I should have kept pretending the questions didn't bother me. But the truth is, I'm tired of pretending. Because when you're constantly treated like a vessel instead of a person, eventually you start to wonder, who's really selfish? The woman who says no, or the family who refuses to hear it? The fallout the night after I sent that message, the apartment felt heavier than usual. Eric didn't come home until almost midnight. I sat on the couch, lights dim, half watching the flicker of some late-night show I couldn't even name. When the front door finally opened, I didn't turn around right away. He dropped his keys on the counter, took a deep breath, and said, well, that was something. I kept my eyes on the screen. What? Mom's devastated, he said flatly. She said she feels like she's losing her family. I turned to look at him, because I don't want to be interrogated about my uterus over brunch. He sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. You could have worded it better. Maybe called her privately instead of posting it in the group chat. It wasn't a post, it was a boundary. Boundaries don't have to be public. Boundaries don't have to be negotiable either, I shot back. For a few moments, the only sound was the hum of the refrigerator. Then he muttered, almost to himself, you always have to make things harder than they need to be. And that sentence broke something quiet inside me. The next few days were a blur of silence and tension. He'd leave early, come home late, and when we did speak, it was surface level. Did you feed the cat? Yeah. Did you pay the internet bill? Already did. The air between us was full of words neither of us dared to say. But the silence didn't last long because his family wouldn't let it. It started with his sister, Megan, showing up at my work just to talk. I was in the middle of my lunch break, sitting in the staff kitchen when she walked in, holding a takeout cup of coffee with my name scribbled on it. Too sweet, just the way I hate it. Hate, she said cheerfully, sitting across from me like this was some casual reunion. You look tired. Everything okay? I didn't answer right away. Megan, what are you doing here? She smiled, that fake polished kind of smile that never reaches the eyes. Mom asked me to talk to you. She was really upset, you know. She feels like you're punishing everyone for wanting to be close to you. I felt my pulse quicken. That's not what I'm doing. She says you hate her. Megan continued softly, like she was reciting a rehearsed line. That you're trying to keep Eric away from his family. I set my coffee down carefully. If she feels that way, maybe she should think about why. Megan leaned in. Look, I get it, okay? You're a modern woman, you have your career, you don't want to be tied down. That's fine. But why make it such a thing? Why draw a line in the sand? Because it's my life, I said sharply. She blinked, surprised at the edge in my tone. You know she just wants what's best for her son, right? I almost laughed. Then maybe she should let him decide what that is. That's when she said it. The sentence that would echo in my head for weeks. You know, if you really loved Eric, you'd at least consider giving him what he wants. She left before I could reply. I sat there trembling, realizing that in their eyes, love was conditional. Something earned only by submission. That night, Eric noticed I was quiet again. Did something happen? He asked. Your sister came to see me, I said. He froze. She what? She said your mom feels like I'm punishing her. He groaned, rubbing his temples. God, I told her not to get involved. But she did, I said. Because you didn't stop her. I can't control what my family does. He snapped. Why are you blaming me? Because you never tried to stop them, Eric. You let them say whatever they want about me, and then act like it's not your problem. His jaw tightened. Maybe if you weren't so confrontational. Confrontational? I repeated. You mean for having boundaries? He threw up his hands. You're turning this into a war. No, Eric, I said quietly. Your family did that the moment they decided my worth depended on whether or not I gave them a baby. Weeks passed. I stopped attending every family dinner, every birthday, every mandatory Sunday lunch. And slowly, the invitations stopped coming. But so did the warmth from Eric. He started sleeping on his side of the bed, back turned to me, silent, unreachable. He stopped saying good morning, stopped asking how my day was. Then one evening, as we were eating takeout in silence, he looked up suddenly and said, "You know, I've been thinking maybe we shouldn't punish them forever." I stared at him. "You mean me? You think I'm punishing them?" He hesitated. "They're my parents. They're getting older. They just want to be part of our lives. Then they can be," I said evenly, "as long as they respect my choices." He frowned. "You make it sound like they've committed some horrible crime." I put my fork down. "They invaded my privacy. They mocked my decisions. They guilt-tripped me for something that's no one's business but ours. And you." I stopped myself. "Say it," he said coldly. "You let them," I whispered. That night, I cried in the bathroom so he wouldn't hear. But the apartment walls were thin. The next morning, he was gone before I woke up. No note, no text, just silence. 3 days later, I got a message from his mom. "I know things are tense right now, but I hope you'll come to the family barbecue this weekend. We want to talk woman to woman." Something about it felt rehearsed, even calculated. I didn't reply. That evening, Eric came home early. He looked tired, not physically, but emotionally drained. "Mom texted you," he said quietly. "I know. She wants to apologize." I stared at him. "For real?" He nodded. "She said she realizes she's been too pushy. She wants to make peace." And for the first time in months, I hesitated. What if this was her trying? What if I really was being stubborn? I agreed to go. With one condition. If she brings up babies, we're leaving immediately. Eric nodded. Deal. The barbecue was held at their house, the same one where everything had started. When we arrived, everyone acted unnaturally cheerful. His mom hugged me like we'd been best friends all along. "Sweetheart, I'm so happy you came." For a while, it was fine. We ate. We laughed. His dad even made a joke about how I'd finally forgiven them. But halfway through dessert, his mom looked at me with that same tight smile and said, "You know, I was talking to Pastor Lewis last week, and he said it's never too late for a miracle. God has a plan for every woman's womb." I froze. Eric's fork clattered onto his plate. "Mom, don't." But she didn't stop. "You two are still young. You could try counseling, or those treatments they have now." I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. "Enough," I said. My voice shook, but it was louder than I'd ever heard it. "You promised, Eric. You said this wouldn't happen again." His mother blinked, startled. "I was just trying to help." "No," I snapped. "You were trying to control." She opened her mouth to speak again, but I didn't give her the chance. "I'm done. I told you this was my line. You crossed it again." Eric stood too, looking caught between us. "Babe, please." I turned to him. "If you stay, you're choosing them. If you come with me, you're choosing us." The silence that followed was suffocating. He didn't move, so I walked away. I drove home alone, shaking the entire time, realizing I hadn't just left a dinner. I'd left a marriage. Because somewhere along the line, I stopped being his partner and started being a prop in his family's fantasy. And I wasn't going to live that way anymore. That night, I sent one last message in the family group chat. "Please don't contact me again until you're ready to respect me as a person, not a womb." Then I left the group, packed a bag, and drove to my sister's apartment across town. Eric texted once, "I need time," and maybe he does, but so do I. Because for the first time in years, the silence feels like peace, not punishment. Party what comes after. It's been 3 months since I left that house, since I stood in the middle of that backyard surrounded by people who couldn't see me for who I was, only for what they thought I should be. 3 months since Eric stood there frozen, torn between his mother's expectations and my pain. And 3 months since I realized that silence can sometimes sound like freedom. At first, I thought I'd go back, that after a week, maybe 2, he'd call. apologize, and tell me he finally understood. He didn't. Instead, he texted every few days, little surface-level things. Hope you're doing okay. Did you feed Luna before you left? Mom's asking if you're alright. Never the words I wanted to hear. Never am sorry. Never I should have defended you. After 2 weeks, I stopped replying. After 4, I stopped expecting anything. I found an apartment, small but warm. The kind of place that didn't smell like judgment or expectations. I filled it with plant I'd probably kill, secondhand furniture, and the sound of peace. No one asking when I'd start a family. No one reminding me that time is ticking. No one defining womanhood by how many diapers I change. Just me. And for the first time in a long time, that felt enough. But peace, as I learned, doesn't stay quiet forever. One rainy Thursday night, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, all I heard was silence at first, and then a trembling voice I hadn't heard in months. "Hey," Eric said. I closed my eyes. "Hi, I wanted to see how you're doing." "I'm fine." "Yet, you always say that." He laughed, but it was hollow. "Listen, I've been thinking about that night. About everything." My throat tightened. "Okay. I think you were right," he said after a long pause. "About my family. About how I never protected you. I thought I was keeping the peace, but really I was just choosing the easier side." It was strange, hearing the words I'd begged for months ago, now falling like rain long after the drought had ended. He continued softly, "Mom's been asking about you. She said she wants to apologize properly this time." I almost laughed. "Does she even know what that means?" "She says she does." "And you believe her?" He hesitated. "I don't know, but I believe you deserve peace, and maybe that means closure." I sighed. "Eric, peace isn't something she can give me. It's something I had to take back." We talked for almost an hour that night. About small things at first, then about the heavy ones. He told me had started therapy, that he was learning how to say no to his parents, that had finally realized being a good son didn't mean being a bad husband. I wanted to feel proud of him. I did. But mostly, I felt tired in the way you feel after carrying someone for too long. Before hanging up, he said quietly, "Do you think there's still a chance for us?" And for a moment, I almost said yes, because I missed him, because part of me still loved him. But love without respect is just habit wearing a mask. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe someday. But right now, I need to learn what it feels like to choose myself first." He was quiet for a long time. Then he whispered, "I understand." And that was the first time in years that I actually believed him. Life after leaving isn't glamorous. It's messy, lonely, and sometimes guilt creeps in when you least expect it. Like when my coworkers talk about their kids and I wonder if maybe I'm missing something. Or when I pass by a playground and see a mom laughing, hair a mess. Eyes tired but full of something pure, and I wonder if maybe I could have been that. If my story had been written differently. But then I remember the suffocating way his mother's words felt like chains. The pressure, the tears, the way my voice trembled when I said no and no one heard it. And I remind myself that I didn't walk away from motherhood. I walked away from ownership. 2 months later, I ran into Megan, his sister, at the grocery store. We froze for a moment, both unsure what to say. She spoke first. "You look good." "So do you," I lied. There was an awkward pause before she blurted out, "Mom's been seeing a therapist. You really messed her up, you know." I laughed softly. "Good. Maybe she'll learn something." She frowned. "That's not funny." "I'm not joking," I said. She needed to be shaken out of her little fantasy world. She was just trying to help. Megan muttered, "by making me feel broken for having boundaries." Megan looked down at her cart. "She loves you. She just didn't know how to show it." I grabbed my groceries and smiled thinly. Then maybe she shouldn't have tried to love me into submission. When I left, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, closure. Not because we agreed, but because I realized I didn't need them to understand anymore. Sometimes I still dream about that backyard. The smell of grilled corn, the sound of laughter the moment everything shattered. And in the dream, I always turn around and see a version of myself sitting there. Younger, quieter, swallowing her discomfort behind polite smiles. She looks at me with wide eyes, like she's still waiting for permission to speak. And in the dream, I finally say to her, "You don't owe anyone motherhood. Not your husband, not his parents, not even the world." And she smiles, finally. Last week, Eric texted again. I signed the divorce papers. I left them with your lawyer. I hope you're okay. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. I am. I hope you will be too. That was it. No drama, no long goodbye. Just an ending. Quiet, inevitable, necessary. Tonight, I'm sitting on my balcony watching the city lights blink like faraway stars. There's a glass of wine beside me and a cat asleep on my lap. And for the first time in years, I don't feel small. I feel whole, because I learned something no one ever told me growing up. That peace doesn't come from being everything to everyone. It comes from finally being enough for yourself. Sometimes I still hear my mother-in-law's voice in my head. Family is what life's all about. And maybe she's right. But what she never understood, what I finally do, is that I get to decide what family means. And sometimes family isn't built from blood or children or expectations. Sometimes it's built from the quiet promise you make to yourself. I will not lose myself trying to please people who never cared to understand me.